record. Go ahead.
Roses are red, violets are blue. I'm using my hand, but I'm thinking of you. Right now on Men Talking Mindfulness, we're going to tackle porn addiction, masturbation, intimacy, and relationships with men's mental health coach, Elise Michaels. Let's do this. Raw, uncut, and unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness. Are you one of those men that are addicted to porn, or maybe you know someone who is? Did you know that consuming excessive pornography can distort our relationships, create unrealistic expectations about sex, exacerbate shame cycles, lend itself to objectifying women, erectile dysfunction, and even financial problems? This is why we called in men's mental health expert Elise Michaels today. Elise, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you being here. And yeah, go for it. Thanks.
No, I'm stoked. I'm stoked to be here and talk about this.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dan. John, great to see you as well.
You too.
Awesome. And hey, and before we go any further, we just wanted to remind you that if you want to get plugged in all things Men Talking Mindfulness, simply text MTM to 33777 to see everything that we are doing, or you can head to mentalkingmindfulness.com. And hey, newsflash, we are also now on Substack, so please subscribe. And John, you want me to do the one breath grounding? You want to jump in here?
Go for it.
Okay, good. So we're going to ground the show like we always do, just by taking one deep, slow breath. You want to close those eyes just to feel more of the experience of the breath. Go right ahead as we just start with a nice little exhale out. Get empty. Feel that grounding from the exhale itself. Take a big, feeling, satisfying inhale. And let that breath go out. Awesome. Hey, so thank you all for being here, tuning in, sharing our podcast, and helping us grow. And let's just jump in. So, John.
Yeah. So, as I was saying before we hit record here, Elise, and for our audience, I just wanted everyone to know how this particular episode came to be. Elise has spoken pretty openly about porn, but there was one particular post that she put on Instagram about for some men, pornography is really the only way they know to calm the nervous system. And I was like, oh man, this is exactly what Will and I talk about quite regularly is ways to calm ourselves. And this is, not necessarily here to promote using pornography to calm yourself, but maybe why people use pornography in different aspects, what it does. And I reached out to Elise and she was kind enough to come on. And so we're excited to have you here. That all said, Elise, let's start with, the typical background. How and why did you get into working with men and their mental health?
Well, I got into working with mental health just because I wanted to scratch my own itch, essentially. Had a pretty dysfunctional childhood, had a therapist, but it wasn't necessarily solving the issues. I was still kind of repeating behavior patterns. So I dove into my own courses, learning about the brain, studying neuroscience, and I found that there's actually a pattern to healing trauma. And then I started posting those videos on LinkedIn, and only men reached out to me for help. Oh, so it was kind of a path that got chosen for me because I realized men don't or didn't really have a lot of support for mental health. This was over 4 years ago. So at that time, there was like nothing. So I just decided to study the problems that men had, the things that they suffered with, and find the solutions for them.
Wow. And yeah. So pornography. So, I mean, congrats for finding your way here. Like, that's kind of like John and I kind of tripped into this as well. And honestly, I mean, we have, but also like I think we have a deep passion for it. Obviously, we've been doing this for over 4 years now, the show, but like men really need help. And pornography is one place that they go to very often to kind of get that calmness to the nervous system. So, let's just dive into pornography right now. And, does pornography consumption, does it satisfy men? And kind of where does this emptiness, come from with that void that kind of is being filled with pornography?
Right. So I don't want to claim to be a statistician on pornography. I deal a lot with trauma. And so what I know from studying the psychology of men is that they're just not given a lot of tool sets for expressing their emotion, for regulating their nervous system, for understanding how to be calm. So they're going to go with the ways that they know. And for men, a lot of what they know is like aggressive activities and masturbation and things like that. So when they're watching porn and they're not talked to about how to regulate their emotions, and they're also not talked to about sex, porn has an intense impact on how they see sex and on their relationship with their body when they are dealing with difficult emotions.
Well, with that, I know Will and I both watched a video that you had posted earlier, or we watched it earlier rather. And in that you talk about porn being destructive to men, being destructive to the intimacy that men can experience, but also being destructive to the intimacy from the partner. How is porn destructive to men, to their intimacy, and how and why?
Because it takes them out of their body and into a made up fantasy world where, you're watching somebody else experience pleasure and you're kind of experiencing it alongside. So it disconnects you from the ability to understand what pleasure actually means for you. And when a man is masturbating to porn, the idea is to just get that immediate gratification of coming. When you are with a partner, that's not something you want to happen. So now you're training your brain to just get to the coming part, not to connect, not to be intimate, not to experience any senses. Nothing is sensory about watching porn. So then you get into the bedroom with your partner and they want to connect with you, and all you've trained yourself to do is disconnect and come fast.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you had, I loved in one of the videos we watched, you talk about this could lend itself to men having like a wide array of sexual relationships instead of a depth. And that's like, could be very difficult for men. So what are, from some of the men you're working with, like what is preventing men from kind of getting to that deeper place and really getting so much of what a deep, intense relationship can provide for a man, instead of this kind of surface transactional, widespread, sexual relationships across, multiple women in multiple different places, if you will.
Yeah, well, if you're watching a lot of porn and you're just teaching yourself to have immediate gratification, why would you stay through the toughness of a relationship when you could just go to the next one and get a new immediate gratification?
Yeah.
So we're teaching ourselves short-term gratification as opposed to like the long-term satisfaction of what having a family means or what having a long-term committed partner means in turn for we just don't want to feel bad. It teaches us just don't even take the time to know how to work for something, to know how to cultivate something.
And we talk about that quite regularly on the show is that the only way out is through, and you have to experience the difficulties, in heartache. You have to experience the difficulties in life. You have to experience the difficulties in work. And it sounds like that's one of the things that we're trying to escape in viewing pornography, is that there's no difficulties there. It's right to the gratification, like you mentioned. So I definitely see that. I mean, I've used pornography in my life, and I've used it to escape problems that I'm experiencing. But I've also used it when, I've been in need of decompressing, like alcohol or drugs. I've turned to pornography for that, not necessarily for the sexual need, but for that calming down, because life has a way of fucking sucking at times, right?
Yeah,
and it's
absolutely.
It's a way to decompress. That said, are there times when pornography can actually be helpful for men or for intimacy, or is it always something that's going to be destructive?
I think we should try to avoid terms like always, because there's nothing that's an always, right? If you are a very conscious person who's aware of yourself, aware of your body, and you use certain tools, anything can be healthy in a sense. But if you are someone who relies on porn, who relies on an external resource to regulate your nervous system, like you said, I would use it to decompress. If you have to use something like that to decompress, that takes you out of your body instead of, and when I say out of your body, it means you're literally dissociating somewhere else so that you can calm down. When you are doing something like meditation or yoga, or deep breathing, you are focusing on yourself and your body. That's a very healthy way to self-regulate. When you focus externally, then the power of your ability to calm down relies on that external resource. What are you going to do when your kid is losing his mind? You need to decompress. You're just going to watch porn in that moment? Like, it just doesn't make sense, right? You're not just going to masturbate in the living room, right? Like, it's crazy. And it sounds crazy when you think about it. So in that same breath, even if you don't have a child, it's crazy to feel like, oh, I'm so stressed about work, I'm just going to masturbate quickly before I go. You know, we have to kind of, and that's not to shame it. It's just to say, if you're in that place, we have to start thinking about, this may not be a normal experience or tool that I want to keep anymore.
Sure. And, you know, that makes me think of another thing, another aspect for younger generations. You know, these things are our cell phones. For those who are listening, I'm holding up my cell phone, and the ease of accessing porn. You know, it's there in our hands, quite literally in our phones, and for other reasons in our hands. But there's
ambidextrous.
Right. So there's I see the kind of disgusted look on Lisa's.
I'm sorry.
What have I?
I wasn't disgusted. I would just
shocked.
Anyhow, with the younger generations. Is this causing, maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't, but is this causing even more problems even wanting to start a relationship, right? There's like, hey, I have access to this pornography. Why even start a relationship? Or if it is a relationship, is it something that's a one night stand that, you know, I swipe left or right? I don't know. I don't use Tinder, but you know, if you, because I'm married, but you know, is there more of a desire to have one night stands and no actual lengthy relationship?
I'm not sure if that's the particular cause, but we also have to think too, places like Instagram and TikTok are somewhat softcore porn with some of the pages, some of the posts. So it's not even that porn industry itself is the cause of this immediate gratification. It's that everything is slowly becoming very sexualized. And I think a lot of young men are becoming actually desensitized to sexual intimate experiences because it's so easily accessible. And people seem to be so much more sexually free than in the last decade. So it's almost like there's no need for connection because everything is just available for you. There's no working for something. There's no earning something. It's just there.
Right.
I don't know if you would agree or if that's something you guys see as well.
You know, I've got nephews and nieces, and I would agree that, you know, some of the social media that's out there is some form of softcore pornography. I've got young kids, and I'm scared to allow them on social media because of that softcore pornography that's out there. And you know, Will's seen it. We've commented on it before. Some of the yoga IG profiles that are out there are putting out stuff that is clearly not just for yoga. It's clearly, hey, look at my body, and I'm gonna get more followers this way. But yeah, I've seen it with some of my nephews and nieces, is that it's taken them away from a desire to have any type of relationship, long-standing relationship, because why even bother? Why do something that's hard if I can access my phone, access everything that I'm looking for right there on my phone?
Right. Well, it's also created a lot of oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. I mean, go for it, Elise. Please keep rocking.
I was just going to say, I feel like it's also created so much mistrust because there is so much immediate gratification and it's so easily accessible. The people are easily accessible. The porn industry actually created a barrier to entry, right? You couldn't just talk to the people unless you maybe paid them or whatever. I don't really know how it works. But Instagram, you can send someone a DM and they might respond back to you, or you can go to their OnlyFans and they will probably respond back to you. And so women are objectifying themselves because they know it works. They know they can get money from it.
Yeah.
But the men are going for it, and the women see that the men are going for it, and like the women who aren't doing it, they're seeing that. And then, you know, there's a lot of infidelity. There's a lot of cheating going on. And so the value of a relationship has just totally dispersed. Like, people are being exposed for being disloyal. And it's just because the temptation temptation lives everywhere. And if it's just everywhere, anybody is able to be tempted. So it's just, I think that in itself is definitely destroying relationships, destroying the desire for a relationship, because who wants to get in a relationship if they feel like someone's just going to cheat anyway?
Right.
Nobody does.
Yeah. And one thing that I see and really feel deeply about, the kind of the hypersexualization of everything is, and just even the digital realm in which you're continuing to play in is the lack and also the understanding and the ability, being skillful with creating like meaningful connection, communicating in an honest way and being really authentic with how you're feeling and expressing that to somebody else. And it, I don't know, I hope it comes back. I mean, I don't know. We're getting very, very heavy into the digital realm. I mean, texting and all that kind of stuff. But I hope it swings back really quick, because like we're kind of in this very distorted reality with social media very often, because we're only really posting, our best selves and, and obviously the hypersexualization and stuff, that we just think that that's just everybody and their life so much. But how about, Elise, how about the men that you're continually working with that are kind of stuck in this cycle of like porn addiction? What are some of like the first things that you do or help them to kind of walk themselves out of this addiction and into a healthier life and eventually into healthier relationships?
Well, if someone has a true addiction, because I'm not a therapist, so I'm going to just clear the air right that put them to a therapist. But if someone is struggling with a habit that they can't break, we have to understand, if we are heavily relying on something like an addiction, it's because part of us feels like we cannot survive without it. And so you can't just quit something cold turkey if you feel like you can't survive without it, or else you'll just keep going back. So before we start the process of quitting something, we start the process of building something that is going to replace it. Often when we focus too much on the thing, like I'm going to quit this or I'm going to stop this, it just stays there. So I push my clients to focus on what they want instead of what they don't want, because then all of the energy and power goes the direction where they want to go. And slowly we just start building the bridge that way. So if it's something like porn addiction, we ask, what would you like to replace this with, right? What would you ultimately want? Is it more connection and intimacy with your partner? If you don't have a partner, is it more connection and intimacy with yourself? Do you even know how to pleasure yourself actually? Or is it just like, yeah, I know, but do you actually know? Do you know what it's like to feel yourself touching your body? Because do you know how to ask for that in the bedroom? So you kind of focus on becoming an expert at what you don't know, and it gives you the confidence to say, I don't need this thing to survive anymore. And we start to touch on maybe a lot of the subconscious reasons why we're addicted to that in the first place. I feel lonely. I feel left out. I feel like no one's ever going to love me. I feel like so stressed and I don't have any other way to calm down. So underneath any type of addiction, like the addiction's not the problem, the addiction is the symptom. So we find the actual problem. And once you heal that, the addiction doesn't need to be there anymore.
Well, what are some ways that men, that you recommend could experience that actual like authentic connection to themselves? I mean, masturbation could definitely be masturbating in a different way, could be one way, but what about like that first step of like kind of getting yourself out there and, really having a healthy relationship and creating a meaningful connection with another person?
Well, before you do that, I think it's necessary to start creating that healthy relationship with yourself. If someone is addicted to porn and they're just masturbating all the time, I think to try masturbating without porn once, just to see if you can witness yourself. Why do I feel the need to masturbate right now? And just even start questioning, right? Start questioning, why do I feel, and see if you can start to unravel bits of that. And I had a different person on my podcast, Zach Thinkshare is his IG, and he talked about sacred self-pleasure and about how you self-pleasure without porn, and you really get mindful before you do it so that you make sure that you're not running away from something, that you're not just trying to escape, and that you're actually just trying to enjoy the moment. And so when it comes to a partner, like let's say your partner doesn't want to be sexual, what he started doing was inviting his partner to join him while he self-pleasured. And it was something that he thought, oh my God, she's probably not going to like this. She's probably going to get grossed out. She was like actually really turned on by it. So it was something that actually brought them closer together, because he wasn't just feeling ashamed and sneaking around behind her back and having to watch porn. She was in on the experience with him. She got to be the fantasy while not having to compromise her needs and boundaries. And they got to share a new level of intimacy together. So it really like helped clear a lot of the gaps in their relationship. And that's something I could say that you could start working on in your intimate relationships as well, is like include your partner in on your sacred self-pleasure.
I like that term, sacred self-pleasure.
In that video, I was like, oh, invite them to watch you, to participate, to co-create. And I was like, brilliant. You know what I mean? So instead of it being, oh, I'm hiding, or doing something bad or shameful, it's like, open the door. It's like, hey, maybe we can change the relationship to masturbation. Exactly. Just by having, go for it.
Sorry, I did not mean to interrupt you.
No, it's okay.
You're the
I think a lot of women are. I think a lot of women are part of the problem with this because a lot of women are insecure and they don't want to feel like their partner is being pleasured without them. So men like have needs and then they ask their woman and their woman doesn't want to do anything. So like, okay, I got to take care of this. So then they're watching porn because that's how they're getting stimulated. And then a woman might walk in on them and get super angry and upset and then make it kind of about her. Like, oh, do you want to fuck that woman or whatever? And I think it's good if we just kind of drop back and maybe have honest conversations, maybe not right when you walk in on him in the bathroom and he's full of shame and he's just trying to go as fast as he possibly can. Right.
Right.
But have it as a talk of like, okay, like be understanding that your partner, they have needs. And if you guys don't always align, that's totally fine. But like, have you had this discussion about masturbation? Have you had this discussion about porn? And maybe, do you want to include yourself in on their time? And do you want to be like, or because maybe it'll turn you on and maybe you'll actually want to have sex more.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just this thing where talking about it and throwing off the blanket of shame, because we're adults. We're not 13 years old anymore. You don't have to hide from, like, people have needs and we shouldn't be ashamed of the needs that we have. We should be able to say like, listen, I want to be intimate with you, with myself, whatever it's going to be. But like, I don't want to feel like I'm doing something wrong and dirty because of that.
Right. And that's another, I love how you just talked about hiding from mom, that's, young boys.
Moms always walk in, right? It's crazy. That's what I hear. I feel like that'd be my worst night.
I never had that experience, but obviously, I mean, moms and dads know, but that said, there in that video, you also talk about having open discussions. Like society has just kind of come to hide sex, and we don't even have these educated discussions about sex, with one another, with our children, with our parents. And so there is this kind of inherent shame to it. Even when you're not masturbating, even when you're with your partner, there's like oh my gosh, I don't want my kids to know that we're doing this, or I would hate for the person in the hotel room next to us to know that we're doing this, because oh my gosh, heaven forbid people know that we're having sex. And you talk about how that lends to the desire to turn to porn to kind of not necessarily educate ourselves, but just be aware and how, I don't know, destructive that can be to our education, because porn is not real sex, right? So could you talk to that for a minute?
Yeah, so I think it's twofold. I think when you're younger, and whether you're religious or not, sex kind of has this aura to it. Like young people shouldn't have sex, like sex before marriage or whatever it is. And young kids are curious, like you're a human exploring the world. So parents kind of like know things are going on, but if you don't have like very present parents, or they feel awkward, nobody ever talked to them about it, the closest thing to the birds and the bees conversation you get is like, use protection. That's like the full extent, so especially for men, they're not being taught like what consent is. They're not being taught how to treat a woman properly, and women are not told anything. They're not taught how to receive pleasure. They're mostly taught how to give pleasure to men. And so when we are curious and we don't have the resources that we trust, like mentors, we go to the quickest resource, which is porn. And what do you see in porn? You see women being very subservient to men. The men aren't necessarily taking care of women, depending on whatever you research, right? And that just creates a foundation for like, this is all I know, so this is all I project. And as an adult, you carry that kind of with you for whatever you know. And you don't necessarily like look to porn as the educational source, but if it's all you know, you might feel ashamed to ask for what you want because you've never felt comfortable exploring what you want. So if there's all this shame wrapped up in your own intimacy and wrapped up in your partner's intimacy in general is going to feel a little awkward or a little uncomfortable. So it's not surprising when someone just wants to masturbate by themselves where they do not experience their own personal shame for having a kink or for just being able to be loud or like what they like, right? If you want someone to spit on you and you don't want to ask your partner because you feel like they're going to be like, that's gross, you know, like you're going to want to watch it. You're just going to want to imagine it in your own head. So it's just this layer of like, when we feel ashamed, we don't ask for what we want and then we don't get it. And then we just hide it.
Yeah, right. For sure.
I mean, great point. And it sounds like it seems like there's a lot of shame wrapped around sex for a lot of people. And how does that, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, but how does that get in the way of sex is just natural. Sex can be very healthy. Sex can, really create deep bonds to yourself and other people. And that you can carry those into other relationships as well, not in a sexual relationship, but just confidence and, having the courage and maybe to stand up for yourself. But how does like living with this, like maybe addictive, like kind of shame cycle around porn and sex, like how does that affect our emotional intelligence? And what are some ways that we can use sex to maybe unlock and experience more emotional intelligence?
Well, I think, like you said, with porn and that immediate gratification, it teaches us that sex makes us feel good, but then we don't necessarily use sex for good. And we get that dopamine high, but then we crash because then you always need to be experiencing coming and that physical intimacy in order to feel good. Instead of having the combination of cultivating a very intimate, dynamic relationship where sex is the cherry on top. Sex makes it that much better. And I just think that we are experiencing a generation now that says it's more sexually open, sexually free, sexually experimental, but so much more higher depression rates because no one is actually getting a fulfilling emotional connection. Not to themselves, not to someone else. If you're just going around sleeping with many people, how disconnected are you from yourself? You are just, and this isn't to like shame anybody who has a lot of sexual partners, but just think about it. If you are constantly having to sleep with someone new, what depth are you getting? You're not actually taking the time to get to know someone. You're just going off of the very first interaction that you have or the couple interactions that you have. And there's nothing there. And then you have to find something else. And so what are you running away from?
Right. Yeah, very true.
Yeah, great. So I'm curious for women, and maybe you can answer this, maybe not, but because I know most of, if not all your clients are men. With pornography, I believe there's different pornography for women. Like if you get on a porn site, most of that stuff, like you said, is where the woman is being subservient to the man. And pornography for women, at least the pornography that women enjoy, is going to be completely different. One, what is pornography for women that women actually enjoy? What does it look like? And then two, how does pornography affect the woman in the relationship if they're watching it?
Right. Men and women are completely different for their experiences on what they grow up with around sex, for what they enjoy, and just how they are biologically. From what I've heard, women, the porn that they like it's like a healthy at-home type of porn. I can't speak from personal experience because I have not looked it up. I'm sorry. Like I can't give a personal experience. I have watched porn, but I just have gone to like the Pornhub like everybody else does.
Yeah.
But I think that women enjoy watching a intimacy where the woman is taken care of and feels cared about. And it's not just taken care of in a sexual way, but where she looks to be cherished, because women's ultimate turn on is being desired. A woman's ultimate turn on is being chosen, above anybody else. So their porn experience is going to be where he is in love with her, where he's chosen her, because that's what she's connecting with intimately.
So I wonder if men would benefit from watching women-oriented porn, right? Like,
I mean, they probably would.
Yeah.
Well, I think you can call women-oriented porn, because I was looking it up. I was looking it up earlier. Romance novels. It is the second highest,
exactly. Written novels, right?
Right. It is the second most profitable category in Amazon. Romance novels.
It's the bad guy who's mean to everybody except for her, right? Like the ultimate chosen object.
Yeah. 50 Shades of Grey. Look, think how popular that book was. How many millions and billions are not.
And she is subservient to Christian Grey. So like women also like subservient sex lives. Like women like to submit to strong men, but they want to be chosen. They don't want to watch these porns where he's with a different girl every single time because she wants to be the main focus of desire.
Right. And what's also in those romance novels is what you said to earlier.
John's taking notes right now, dude.
I am.
He's about to get off the call and go to his wife and say, hey, I got some ideas for us later.
That's really why I reached out to you, Elise.
He's ready. He's ready.
This is a free session.
John was like, hey, Will, we need to do this episode for my wife. I was like, all right, John, I'll save your relationship. But like coming back to those romance novels, I mean, this could be like, if men would go and read maybe some romance novels, they will get clued in to what women need. Like you said earlier, to be taken care of, to be cherished, to be, put up on that pedestal, to be appreciated for not just their beauty and like their sexuality, but also their mind and, all the different things that make a woman just a wonderful person and a wonderful woman as well. And it's like that's just like the opposite, or not the opposite, but like that's what romance novels are for a lot of women are pornography. My mom reads them. All my aunts read them. Like I don't have any sisters, but they're like huge. Yeah, go for it.
One of my wife's friends writes them. I'm going to space on her name right now, but she writes them, and she's been hugely successful in writing them. Maybe that is the key. Maybe I just need to start reading those books.
Wow.
You need to write one, John.
Lord have mercy. No, I don't.
Man's version of romance novel.
So one copy.
Yeah.
Navy SEAL writes romance novels. It'll be a huge hit. Guys.
Navy SEAL. Actually, one time I was looking for this book that was on selling, and it was called Seal the Deal, but like there was another one called Seal the Deal, like as a Navy SEal.
Yeah.
And I started listening to it thinking it was a sales book, and it was actually one of those smut books because I was like,
oh, jeez.
I'm like, this is a really weird book. Like I
accidentally bought that. Sure.
I didn't buy it. It was free on Audible. I was like, oh great, this book is included. Like, let me listen. And after like 6 chapters, it was like Kelsey went over to the mom's house and she was trying to set them up. And I was like, I don't think this is about sales strategy.
It took you 6 chapters, Elise.
It was so slow, dude. I was like, okay, sometimes they use stories to like talk about how they're selling the techniques.
I love it.
Well,
I love it. But actually, funny enough, if you Google Navy SEAL and romance novel, there's a lot of them. Not written by Navy SEALs, but there's like that shows this super muscular guy on the cover. And
why have you Googled this?
Because I am. I haven't.
You said that you never read them or wrote them, but yet you know this.
Well, because I'm in a group with a whole bunch of immature fellow SEALs, and we always send the copies of the covers to one another and be like, "Hey, was this you? Was this you?" So, as a matter of fact, I've got some of the stuff blowing up over here on the side from some of my former teammates.
The cover of this podcast is just going to be John on the Navy SEAL romance cover. That would get so many hits, dude. Just
see, look, we're getting ideas for our next thumbnail.
Yeah, exactly. Then talking mindfulness romance novels. That'd be awesome.
Just start Europe.
I know. Yeah, this is great, guys. And so you know what? While the energy's flowing here, why don't let's talk about the penis, right? As far as like how does porn consumption impact like male arousal and erection? I can get serious for a second, or just kind of take that question in, right? Sorry, I know we're just going right into it.
Tell me, how does the male penis get impacted by porn? What do you think?
Great question. Well, if like, if I'm and I'm not, but I mean, I don't really consume a lot of porn, to be honest with you.
Are none of us consumers of porn talking about a porn podcast?
I have been, and I would say
that's the expert, dude. That's what I'm taking the notes.
No, I wouldn't say that I'm an expert.
Give your input.
But I would say, I was deployed away from my wife for an extended period of time when I lived in Bahrain, and that there was a lot of stress in the job that I was doing, and yeah, I did resort to porn to calm myself down, and I would say that it did change my expectations of when I did get an opportunity to travel home, or if my wife traveled out to me, it changed my kind of expectations of the experiences that we were going to have. And this was probably a combination of multiple things, but I think it's also changed with time, with levels of testosterone, with age, but also with consumption of porn, is that the ability to have as much of an erection. I still am able to get one, but it's the ability to get as much, I guess, it's the ability to get as aroused as I would like to. And then, Elise, as you mentioned before, I'm very much, when I'm consuming a lot of it, I'm very much outside of my body, even when I'm with my wife. And then once I do come, then I'm like, okay, either I'm going to bed, I'm falling asleep, or I'm thinking about, okay, what else? What's tomorrow hold? I'm not in the moment. So, I mean, that's the antithesis of what we speak about on the show, mindfulness. I am not being mindful, even when I'm not consuming porn actively, like in the moment, but I may have consumed it that week or whatever. It changes how I show up in the bedroom for my wife. So, and that's, how my penis shows up, and then how I show up mentally and emotionally as well. So, yeah, I would say it definitely has an effect there.
Yeah. And I'll add, like, if you're continually consuming pornography and getting aroused in that way, with that kind of behavior, I mean, in pornography, which can be very, violent or, very, I mean, just so, I mean, it's pornography. So it's like, it's an extreme circumstance, and you don't have that when you're in like a real life situation and you're in like a real relationship and you're having like real sex, and you're not like experiencing that same type of high, and those same extremes like you're experiencing, as you're consuming pornography. I'd imagine that's going to be, your penis is like, hey, I'm used to doing this, and experiencing this and having these feelings. So what the hell is this real stuff about? And maybe that can lead to some sort of cognitive dissonance or something like that, or some sort of obvious disconnection between you, your feelings, the moment, and what your imagination, or what your, kind of how you practice in some ways. Like, I guess porn can be, a very bad habit, but which I guess can be a practice of like what sex is and how I'm relating to sex and how I'm like actually having sex in those situations with myself. And then we translate it into real life situation. It's just like, they're actually communicating. Someone's communicating with me, looking at me. Like, I could see how it could be very challenging if you don't, I guess, have experiences in real life.
I'll also jump in with this, and then sorry, Elise, then we're actually going to have you talk. We turn this into the Will and John.
Thank you, Elise, for your patience.
But with coming back to the penis, obviously as pornographies, as porn stars, there's a reason that no,
Okay.
Those who are porn stars, the males are. There's a reason that they are, and normally they are well endowed. And when you are watching that as a man and you see this overly endowed man, you're like, oh man, there starts to be this self-esteem problem. So I'd say in that regard, it also affects how you show up in the bedroom. Like, I'm not as big as that porn star who has, X size penis
and girth.
and girth. So I would say it also affects you there, when in actuality there's a more human, more natural size than what you see in a lot of pornography. So okay, I'll stop there.
No, I love that. Your perspectives are so valuable and so valid. And the only thing I might add to what you guys have said is that as much as we like to think that sex is only physical for men, it is also emotional. So if you are with a partner and you're having to watch porn because, like you said, you're overseas, like there's not much that you can do sometimes, but there's an element in our moral code where we are inviting another person into our intimacy, even digitally, and we can have a sense of guilt and shame for that as well. So when you are finally with your person and you're unable to get kind of like as turned on, there's a little bit of that comes into play. I think that mentally it's kind of like I've already invited outside sources into our intimacy. And whether you think like that or not, it can in your subconscious make you feel like you've betrayed the relationship in some way.
Right.
Especially as society says that. So it's like when you come back to your person, you already have this feeling of shame, or even if they don't even shame you for it. So it doesn't allow you to get as hard. It doesn't allow you to get as into it because you now have just done something shameful to yourself as a man because you've kind of stepped out of maybe your moral boundaries. And then, like you said, the whole penis thing, right? The porn teaches you not how to use your penis, but that you should have the biggest penis and use it aggressively only is basically what it's about. And then you should last the longest and blah, blah, blah. Like it doesn't actually teach the concept of true pleasure. Because if someone is actually tuned into sex, they say it's not what you have, it's how you use it. It's how you use your other tools and resources. And I was listening to a porn podcast not too long ago, and they talked about how statistically taller, like more handsome men, I don't know how tall you guys are, but they're like not as good in the bedroom as shorter men because men, because the taller men are like just subconsciously witnessed as, you know, people assume they have giant penises. So they're kind of like those restaurants on the boardwalk where everybody just goes to them. They don't necessarily have good food. They're just like in a great location. And the other guys have to like study and read books and learn how to pleasure. So they're like awesome in the bedroom. Yeah, they just have like more success because they've actually taken time. They don't have the best location. So people aren't going to them as much. But when they do, it's like, okay, then they get repeat customers, let's say, you know, like, so I think porn, it doesn't do anybody justice because the people in the porns, the people with the big dicks and the people who are really tall and handsome. So then the handsome guys are like, I got this in the bag. I look like one of those guys. That's me. And then they don't take time to like actually figure it out. So they get a lot of women, but the women don't usually like them. And
interesting. Well, we are both over 6 feet tall.
I'm 6'3".
That doesn't apply to us. That doesn't apply to us. We do our homework.
You're both married though, right? You're good to go.
No, I'm married.
I'm not married, but
all right. Well, we'll have to bring on some of your past girls for interviewing sake. And we need a panel.
Well, I just shared something with John earlier today.
Will.
So
you shared something. Was it good or bad?
It was okay. It was actually. Okay, should I say this?
No. Actually,
no. He's like, don't say it.
No, we'll talk to you about it off the air.
Yeah. It happened today. I was like, anyway. Apparently, my voice is an aphrodisiac. I was like, okay, great. Anyway, so
did you know I have a podcast?
Yeah, I know, right?
You know, I have this all night long, baby. Like,
well, my. All right, let's just go a little bit further. This has been great, guys. I really love what we're talking about here and all the laughs and stuff we're sharing here. But like, and I know you're not a therapist, but I'm not going to ask this question anyway. Like, are there any pitfalls to like chronic masturbation? You know, like, I mean, that's if every day, every other day, twice a day, you know, does that have an effect, you know, on our relationship to ourselves, other people, you know, to our relationship, you know, in intimacy? Just a question.
Absolutely. I think if you have chronic masturbation, you have absolute chronic shame. It's a shame cycle that leads to stress, anxiety, more shame. It's self-sabotage.
Wow.
And the irony there, which I never really thought about, is like we started the show off with, some people are masturbating to calm themselves down, but then they end up in that chronic shame cycle, which adds to their anxiety, which is just wild to think about. Yeah. So here's a question for you. You know, you're obviously an attractive woman, but you're a men's coach. There's got to be times when men, once they've worked with you for a while, they maybe come onto you in a way. How do you deal with that? And then have you used that particular instance?
What have I used it? Have I used it to my advantage?
No,
No.
Actually, it's the other way around.
That's my ploy. That's what everybody thinks, right?
No, I was actually thinking, like, have you used that moment as a transformative tool for the man? Hey, look, I appreciate this, but that's not where we're going. But the fact that you came on to me, maybe we can work on that. I don't know, just kind of off the pornography topic. I'm even uncomfortable asking it.
You don't have to be uncomfortable. Everybody assumes this. Everybody asks this, but none of my clients have ever made a move on me.
Oh, good.
I think because they're serious about the work that they're doing, and because I'm also, I'm a more expensive coach. Like, I'm a higher tier coach, so I don't want to say that people who want to hit on me can't really afford it. To do it that way, I get a lot of DMs from people.
Oh yeah.
But my clients know. And the closest thing that's ever come to that is something we call transference. And this is something therapists struggle with as well, where when you don't have stable emotional connections and you don't really understand yet, in the beginning, you get extremely attached to your coach or therapist, and you think that you have certain feelings or desires because you're just replacing your mom or your ex-girlfriend or whatever with that person. And that maybe happened once in the very beginning where they said something like that. And I explained to them what transference was, and it completely shifted the energy because they were like, oh, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Sure.
Because if you're someone who's experiencing attachment to your therapist like that, you have to understand that you're creating a fictional relationship because they know you, but you do not know them.
Right.
Therapists and coaches are not friends with their clients. I mean, maybe some coaches are. I'm not. I said the strong boundary, like, they don't know personal things about me. We're not talking about hanging out on the weekend. It's strictly like, I ask you in-depth questions about yourself. I'm there to support you, but there's no such thing as a real relationship there because there can't be. It's solely focused on the client. So it's really hard for anybody to get feelings for someone if they know nothing about that person.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. You answered the question that I was trying to ask.
Yeah.
So I appreciate
I only laughed because people say that to me, and I'm also get confused sometimes because I don't see myself that way. So I just think it's funny every time.
Well, no, hey, I mean, it's a great example of setting clear boundaries, and having clear intention. And if you start blurring those lines at all, like, things can get really kind of fucked up. And you can't. And so good on you for that, for sure. A couple more questions. Like, I really enjoyed the one video that you had mentioned, like the healthy template, right? About modeling, hearing, and experiencing. So we have a lot of dads out there that listen with kids. And what would you say? How would you, if I'm a father, or when I'm a father, how am I going? What is the way of modeling healthy, intimate relationships? Hearing about healthy sex and relationships, and also like experiencing healthy sex and relationships as a parent, like being, this epitome to health in all areas of your life, if you will.
Absolutely. Well, if you think about creating a healthy foundation, a healthy template, it doesn't just start for your child with the birds and the bees conversation. It starts from the literal time that you are raising your baby, because we grow to know what we experience, our lived experience, what we're seeing, and what we're hearing. So how are you talking to your partner on the daily? How are you treating them? How are you guys acting in a physical, intimate way around your children? Are you hugging, holding hands, kissing? Are you holding your child's hand? Are you hugging your child a lot? Are you showing them that normal, natural connection and physical intimacy is okay and it's welcome, especially with a partner? And are you being open about expressing that these things are okay? Do you tell your partner you love them, that they're sexy, that You want them, because your kids don't just listen to what you say. They just watch, and they become what you do and who you are. So if you treat yourself in a shameful way, if you treat your partner in a shameful way, or sex in a shameful way, like if kissing comes on the TV and you go, you're not allowed to watch that, kissing is bad, or whatever it is, they're going to think that, they're going to see that. And then it watches, if you're hypocritical and you do that different behavior in person, or you say, oh, kissing is great, but you're never kissing your partner, you're sending mixed messages. They're going to get confused. So decide what kind of relationship you want your children to witness and be in. And that's what you should be kind of acting on daily. And this is why we always say, we as in me and other people who have this opinion, that relationship with the spouse is the most important one you have, because that is what your child is growing up to witness, and they're going to choose subconsciously for themselves.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Does that answer?
No, it makes a lot of sense. And, it's obviously from the experience realm, like, that's like, it just even having like that, just solid, confident connection with your kids, and just letting know you love them, and like taking care of them, and, and just like, and getting their back when they, all the wonderful things that can make it really rich and very vibrant, and therefore, trustworthy, but also like a parent that like that really helps to put a child in the world that feels safe, that feels taken care of, that has modeled all those wonderful things that you had talked about, and it's okay to express intimacy. It's okay to like kiss in public or something like that. Like you don't have to hide from the shame that comes through. And I grew up in a Catholic family, and there's definitely a lot of shame that's wrapped around in sex. I remember the first time, I must have been like 14, 15 years old. I think I told this story on the show before. And, it gets like, hey, my parents, like, my dad doesn't know any better. Like we're all a product of our generation. We're all a product of our upbringing. We're a product of the things that are involved in our upbringing, our parents, our church, our communities and stuff. And I remember I had a woman coming over to my house, like, I was like 14, I think 15. And my parents were leaving for the evening, and I asked them like way too many times what time they're coming home, so they definitely knew something was going on, right? So like, I know, I definitely. I mean, I asked them like fucking 6 times, and I was like, but I learned from that experience, right? So they leave within minutes. Nicole comes in, or sorry, okay, the last name doesn't matter, right? So
damn, Nicole, if you're out there,
there's no last name.
Talking about you.
So Nicole comes in, right? And like, I'm really shy, and like, this is like an opportunity to like, get intimate in some ways, wasn't thinking we're going to have sex, but at least like kiss, do this. And before I can really, get out of my shy way and kind of, have some sort of intimacy with this woman, my parents come home. Right, I can hear them pulling in the driveway. I kick them out the back. I kick Nicole out the back door. I'm like, gotta go. I was like, gotta get the fuck out of here right now. And so she goes out the back door. 14? They didn't even see her. What's that?
You were 14 years old?
14, 15. Yeah, I know, right? I was scheming hard at that age. So
this is that 6 foot tall. Remember that stereotype I brought up? This is the start. This is the start of the era. Okay, continue.
That's not true. I don't agree with that. I'm just kidding. But so she leaves. My parents come in. I'm all like, oh shit, I got caught, and I'm waiting. I'm waiting for that birds and the bees talk. I'm like, all right, well, finally, I'm gonna like, have this. They're gonna have this conversation with me, and we can kind of go on this moment in our lives as like parents and child and stuff. And my dad looks at me, and he says, "And I love you, Dad." Not like he's listening anyway. I would say he goes, it is a sin to spread your seed. I was like, wow. I was just shocked. I was like, I didn't know what to do. I don't remember laughing in his face, but I was just in like a state of shock. I'm like, this is what, okay. And well, that was
the talk. That was the.
It's just like what a dark thing to say to you.
I know, exactly. I mean, and I got grounded for a couple of weeks. You know what I mean, for trying to be a healthy young male
too. Like
I know, very cryptic. Yeah, I mean, but again, like that's just his generation, or that's just the way that that part of my family was raised, but very cryptic. It was like,
did Nicole come back over? Like, did you ever? Did that scare you?
I guess it did. I never got with Nicole again. Not that I remember, because I definitely would tell you if I did.
She went to the next restaurant. She said 0 stars.
Yeah. She said 0 stars.
A 5'8" man would have never done that.
Oh, damn.
Saying, Will. He would have hit her in the closet at least.
I got to thank you, Elise, for bashing tall people. Like, because that is usually not the
challenge.
I'm not bashing tall
They're going to love this. They're going to love it.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, Nicole. You're not at all bashing, but I like
Nicole. You just call her Nicole, man. Nicole is in the back of your mind.
Nicole, there's serious
God.
trauma here.
Wow. I don't know what the hell's going on right now.
All right, let's try to get back on track here. So, all right, hey Elise,
I promise I'm not Nicole. Will
I know.
We need to have a whole therapy session on what Nicole that member was called.
Oh shit. Well, hey Elise, what have we not discussed that you think is vital to this conversation for men, for women, for our community, hell, for the two of us right here? What have we not discussed that's tied to this?
Well, let's just discuss this one last kind of important thing that I think nobody talks about, which is you talked about how we raise children to be okay with intimacy. So there's a next level, which is like teaching them how to, like, what consent is by not forcing them to hug everybody, by not telling them that they have to like accept kisses and whatever from aunts and uncles, and not forcing, like, because I see parents sometimes like, do you want a donut? Oh, give me a little kiss right here. Like trading, like we start that from young age. And I didn't think that was weird until I saw a video of it where this guy was giving his daughter a donut. He's like, you can't have a bite until you give me a kiss right here. And it was such a weird thing to watch. Everybody was like, oh, sweet moment with a dad and a daughter. But just from my perspective, I was like, oh, that's kind of weird, because he's teaching her that in order to get something, a reward, she must, it's transactional, it's sexual. But the thing I really think we should talk about is it being okay for men to also be able to have their consent, because men do not feel like they can say no. Mm-hmm. They do not feel like, like women can point out at any moment in time when they're being sexualized. If they get catcalled, people stick up for them or whatever. There's a huge movement, but women definitely sexualize men, and it is not talked about or said about. And a lot of men have been abused in that way, especially as children, and they do not talk about it. They have not talked about it. And there's a lot of shame. And there's actually a real pattern with men who have been, abused, sexually assaulted as children, and their addiction to porn, their addiction to sexual relationships, because that is their foundation. So I don't know if you guys wanted to touch on that at all, or if you...
Yeah, I think that'd be, that's definitely an interesting path to go down. I'll come back to the softcore porn that is Instagram at times. There are Instagram accounts that I follow that I think are hilarious, but quite often, it's this dual screen one where there's a physically attractive man on one side and there's a woman on the other, and she's commenting about ways, she could do X, Y, and Z with him. And, everybody thinks it's hilarious, including myself. But when you really take a step back, and if you were to flip those roles, if there was an account where a physically attractive woman was on there and a man was talking about that, he would be destroyed. And rightly so. I mean, it's objectifying on either side, and it's not right. But you're right. I think that men, and I've had that happen to me. I've been in a situation where, alcohol was involved, and I ended up doing things that I didn't want to with a person that I didn't want to. And I didn't know how to say no as a man. And if that same situation had been reversed, and I am not discounting women's situations that are similar, but I'm trying to say that there are situations where men don't consent and they don't know how to, just like you said. It's not a zero-sum game where, hey, because men have this, well, women don't have this. So I'm saying that as a human being, we have that right to consent or not consent. And I don't think men, I don't think they know how to do it. two, I think they feel that society is going to ostracize them if they do it. They're like, well, I had an opportunity to get laid, but I said no. Well, that's and your boys are going to make fun of you, and it's society. It's the way society is. Whereas if you just go through the act, it's like, okay, well, I was a man and I was lucky enough to get laid. It was just ridiculous. But yeah, that comes back to pornography too. There's a lot of tie-in there. So I fully agree, Elise. Thank you for bringing that up. Anything else?
No, I mean, just a really good point. Like, it's okay to say no, and like, I think what you bring up, John, and also it's like, you don't have to live for other men, as far as like, how you're supposed to aspire to your sexuality. Like, it's okay to only want, like, to get in deep relationships and to have a deep, intimate relationship with one person. You don't, like, for the younger listeners out there, it's like, you're going to benefit a lot more from discovering, working, chipping away, getting vulnerable in those relationships. You're going to learn a lot more about yourself, about society, about like what relationship is. And we're always in relationship with something, whether it's with ourselves and our dreams and our body or our business, and also in relationship with other people. And, the more that you get intimate in whatever it is, especially having the reflection come back from somebody else about this is good, or I don't like this, or, like, you're going to just receive a lot of valuable information. But if you're always saying yes to sexual encounters in order to just continually hold up that male model of like, oh, like because I've slept with so many women now, therefore I'm a man. Like, that's, in the long run, I think that is going to lead to more of that porn addiction, because you want to continually have that rush of that very quick, like, pleasuring and all of what pornography brings, versus like hanging in there, being in a deeper, intimate relationship and learning about yourself and the other person in a deep and meaningful way. There's like, this is one way that men kind of get fucked up, because we start living for other men, because like what they call the man card, we're going to take them at your man card. If you turn down sex, well, do you want to be part of that fucking club? You might want to question that,
Right.
So.
And I think that it really does suck for men too, because it's like the number of women is more important than the skill set.
And there you go.
I think
Thank you.
men don't understand that you can learn so much more from just being with one woman for a long period of time and getting to understand her and know her and just explore new ideas with each other than you can with having sex with many women, because you're not creating enough time to create the skill set, the depth,
the communication.
And you're also, it's just really, really sucks for men, because it's like, if it's a numbers game, you're just exposing yourself to so many risks, sexual STDs, pregnancy, you're not properly identifying the person that you're sleeping with. And so, you can invite a lot of toxicity into your life. And I see a lot of, when I post things like this, I get a lot of comments like, oh, women don't want men who aren't experienced and blah, blah, blah. Like, maybe the women you're talking about are the women you want to avoid. Because a lot of women don't value, like, because just like, and I don't want to be like diving into the red pill or whatever, but a lot of men are like, oh, women are low value if they have a lot of bodies, whatever. I see it as the exact same for men, because if you distribute yourself to so many things, no matter where you're at, if you have 100 companies versus one company, your level of value goes down.
Right.
You are not as valuable in 100 companies as you are in one company. So it's not even just about having sex. It shows in your character about your decision-making, your discipline, your ability to make smart choices, wise decisions. So are you living up to the standards of a man that you actually want to be? And do you, when it comes to the man card, are you comparing yourself against men that you actually want to be like? Are they headed in the direction that you want? Because sex is also a self-discipline. And how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you have loose sexual energy, I'm guessing you have loose financial energy, you have loose diet energy, like you probably have addictions through everything. So when you clean things up and get very focused on a straight track, your whole life will improve.
God damn. And check. That is awesome.
Those women that say, I want a man that's experienced. as you mentioned, having a lot of sexual encounters with various women, that doesn't make you experienced. You can have experience from having many sexual encounters with one woman, or, and you learn a lot more there because the communication is there. So I think those women who are saying something to that effect, they don't really understand where the true experience comes from, the depth of the experience. So, well, hey, Elise, this has been awesome. And, one thing that I want to make sure we hit on when we're talking about pornogaphy is that we know that pornography is a huge a moneymaker, right? It's a money making industry, and we want to acknowledge that some of the pornography that's out there, it can play a major role in human trafficking. And we, as Men Talking Mindfulness, and Elise, I'm sure you're on the same page, we're against all forms of exploitation and abuse. So, if you do notice any signs of human trafficking, for our audience, if you notice any signs of human trafficking, please report it to the authorities and reach out to the organizations dedicated to fighting this issue, because they are out there. So I just wanted to make sure that, the topic of the conversation is about porn and its effects on men, but we also wanted to make sure that we expressed our concerns with that regard. Now, that all said, Elise, we're going to wrap it up here with, we started the show off with a grounding practice. We like to bookend the show at the beginning and the end with a grounding practice. I'll jump right into that here in a second, but for our listeners, for our audience, for our community who is interested in finding out more about you, your coaching, how do they get a hold of you? Do you have any promotions that are out there? I'll turn it over to you.
You can find me anywhere on social media at Elise Michaels. I'm sure that they'll link them. If you go to the link in my bio, you can get a free masterclass for men's emotional self-mastery. So I teach you how to self-regulate. It's free. I have a lot of free resources, YouTube. And if you want further coaching, such as the men's group, contact me at any time. Links are everywhere. And yeah, appreciate you guys so much. I should have you come join in on the men's group and do a speaking session.
We would love that. And we'll make sure all those links to your social media, to your YouTube, everything else, to your website are in the show notes, both on our YouTube and on our podcast later. So, Will, did you have anything there?
No, I'm just a big thank you, Elise, not Nicole, but Elise for being on the show. And you're right. You're not a bashing tall men. I mean, I guess, sorry I even said that, but I mean, we're just hitting the fun of the show. But no, I really enjoyed everything that you talked about today. And I know our audience out there is going to receive a lot of value from this, because there are a lot of men out there that suffer, with the porn addiction and masturbation, all the kind of things, and intimacy issues as well. So all the things that we talked about, and just, you're on the journey with us, as far as like helping create a healthier society through just helping men. And it's just nice to connect with another professional like yourself. So thank you again.
Thank you, Elise.
Absolutely.
So,
thanks, guys. And I'm not bashing tall men. I hope
no, I know you're not.
One day, one maybe can prove me wrong. That it's a challenge. It's a challenge more than anything. Tall men, get on my radar. I'm single. Maybe don't put that in the podcast. I don't know.
Oh, that's in there.
It's like the opening line.
We'll just make that one snippet. So now that we're all laughing and everything, let's get grounded, calm ourselves back down without using any pornography. We're just going to come and turn into our bodies, get into our bodies, right? And we're just going to close our eyes if that's open to you and if that's comfortable for you. And let's just notice ourselves, notice the space that we take up. Notice the physical feelings from your head to your toes, from your toes to your head. Notice this space and time that we're in. We are not in the future. We are not in the past. We are here and now. And over and above the physical aspects of being in the here and now, notice the emotional side, what you're experiencing, what this show brought up for you, without necessarily identifying it as positive or negative, but just being aware of it. And then we'll wrap this up with 2 deep cleansing breaths together. Begin by exhaling. letting it out, letting it out, letting it out, holding empty and deep breath in into your belly first and into your chest. Hold at the top and let it go, let it go, let it go. Holding empty one more time at the bottom. Deep breath in, belly first, then into your chest. Hold and release. And as you release this final breath, start to bring some movement back into your body, rolling your shoulders, wiggling your fingers and toes, and opening your eyes if they were closed. Elise, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today. Fantastic topic, fantastic insights. We really appreciate it. And we know our audience, our community is going to appreciate it. This has been fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks, Elise.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you walk away with some new tools and insights to guide you on your life journey. New episodes are being published every week, so please join us again for some meaningful discussion. For more information, please check out mentalkingmindfulness.com.